The New York City Housing Authority is pausing the Section 8 waitlist and issuance of new Section 8 housing vouchers. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting story for you today, and it's coming out of New York City, and guess what it has to deal with? Section 8. Yeah, I know. I've been talking about Section 8 a lot lately because there's been a lot of interest in all the cutbacks that they're making to the program. So in New York City, they're facing the same cuts that everyone else in the country is facing. So they have to stop the wait list and stop issuance of new Section 8 housing vouchers. And you know what? They're probably going to have to make cuts too because they have too many people on Section 8. They've got way too much public housing in New York as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they had to make humongous cuts. And then of course, they're going to start screaming the same arguments that they've been making all over the country. Oh, this is going to lead to homelessness. Well, you know what? It might, but it will be better overall for the country if we are spending less money paying for other people to be housed for free or for significantly discounted. So, you know what? I am all for it. I am for these cuts. I believe that there's a lot of people out there who are lazy, who are abusing the system, and they've been on it for too long. And I don't know what the percentage of people are out there who are actually trying to get off of Section 8, but I don't imagine it's too many people, okay? Now, I do have another article for another video that goes over that very topic. People who are actually trying to become independent and not rely upon the government to pay their bills for them. But that's a different story. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So first of all, do you believe that there are going to be more cuts in New York City, maybe to the public housing on top of the Section 8 vouchers, okay? If you do, what do you think the cuts are going to be like? Do you think there's going to be a mass exodus of people off of these programs and forced to pay their own rent? Do you think a whole bunch of people are going to become homeless all of a sudden? Put a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Anyway, I'm going to get into this article. We're going to talk about the cuts that they're making in New York City. This article is coming from pix11.com, and it says, New York City Housing Authority pauses Section 8 waitlist and voucher issuance. Who does it affect? Let's get into it. The New York Housing Authority has put a pause on one of its most critical programs in an effort to combat a nationwide issue, following the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's announcement in March that it will be ending the Emergency Housing Voucher Program. New York City Housing Authority is beginning to transfer EHV households to the traditional Housing Choice Voucher Section 8 program. The EHV program was formed in 2021 as part of the American Rescue Plan and has helped New York City Housing Authority stabilize roughly 5,500 New York City households in that time. Now that NYCHA needed to transition those on the EHV program to the Section 8 program, the 200,000 families that have made it onto the Section 8 wait list will have to wait even longer for a voucher. So basically, they created this EHV program back during COVID, and they've had to transition people from that program over to the regular Section 8 program, and that means that people on the wait list got pushed back even further. Now, I told you what I thought of these wait lists a long time ago, okay? They're garbage. They're absolute garbage. If these people have been able to survive sitting on this wait list for years on end, they probably don't need a voucher, okay? Just facts. Now, people in my comments section, a bunch of, I call them excuse makers because they will throw out 1,000 different excuses for, these people must have been living in their car for 5-10 years. Why would you be living in your car for 5 to 10 years? If you're living in your car for 5 to 10 years, there's more problems than simply needing a housing voucher, okay, that are leading to you being homeless. That's the truth, okay? There's no way that you're living in your car for 5 to 10 years unless you have serious other problems. I'm talking mental health, substance abuse, etc. So, I don't think that is reasonable to sit here and say, oh yeah, you know what? They were on the wait list for 5 to 10 years living in their car. No, that's not reasonable. Most likely, if you are just a normal person and you're on that wait list for that long and you already had somewhere to live, most likely. Okay, you weren't homeless. You didn't need the government to pay for your voucher. Now, having significantly reduced rent, everybody's for that, even people who make good incomes, okay? But that doesn't mean that you need a voucher. And, I want people to be able to pay for themselves, and that's what we should be working towards. So that's why they put these, work requirements up there. That's why they put in there that, hey, this is for a 2-year limited time, and that's why they're making these huge cuts right now. So, how, I know what you're wondering right now. How is this going to affect landlords, these cuts in New York City, where there's so many Section 8 tenants? It's going to hurt. A lot of landlords are going to be hurt, okay? They're going to have a lot less tenants. They're going to have a lot less money. And the only option that they're going to have is to rent to market rate tenants, okay? Maybe it'll come to the point where we won't have to worry about these laws where they're forcing us to take Section 8 tenants, because there aren't that many. Okay, they might all be gone at that point, because guess what? They just rolled off of the program because their 2 years were up. Now, obviously, there's still going to be people who are elderly and disabled who are long-term, but there could be a huge exodus of the number of people on Section 8. It could be very detrimental to landlords whose businesses relied upon Section 8 tenants, and it could require us to change our strategies overall, okay? But like I said before, I believe this is where, the country needs to go. Regardless of how expensive the housing is in New York, we don't need a huge amount of people there who are reliant on the government in order to pay their rent. That's absolutely idiotic, in my opinion. Reliant on the government to pay your rent. And then, even in the case of the tenants who aren't reliant upon the government to pay their rent, then the city put in place government-imposed rent control. So they were still relying upon the government to keep their rents low. Idiotic, okay? We need a real market-based system in New York, but that can only work if we combine it with a government who is willing to allow builders to build and allow developers to develop. That's it, okay? If you can't build new housing, then you're just stuck with all this old housing that you can't make enough money on in order to actually run a profitable business. So, there's so many issues, and they're all at the same time. And what is it all linked to? It's linked to socialist policies in a place like New York. Okay, so anyway, let me continue with the article. I'm ranting and raving right now. Last summer, the city opened the waitlist for the first time in 15 years and received 600,000 applications. As of August 1st, applicants who had not received a voucher were returned to their original position on the waitlist, not removed from it, according to New York City Housing Authority. The Housing Authority's reasoning for the pause cited the effects of the EHV cut on families in need. The abrupt conclusion of this assistance, which has been a lifeline for so many, could have a devastating effect on New York's families without this action, a New York City Housing Authority spokesperson said. So, they said right there that was the first time in 15 years that they opened the wait list. So imagine, here you are, you're in New York City, you are a lower income person, you are facing an immediate need for housing assistance, right? And the Section 8 program has a 15-year wait list on it. And the wait list isn't open, by the way. So people who, it's 2025 right now, people who applied in 2010, right? They're still on the list to get housing through the New York City, to get housing assistance through the New York City Housing Authority. And you, as somebody who is newly in trouble, can't even get on the list. So you see the flaws in the system immediately, okay? If you need immediate help, then the Section 8 program is garbage. Even if you don't need immediate help, and you're like, well, I can make this work for a few months, you still don't have any method of getting assistance, okay? So the system didn't work. It doesn't work. Okay, and instead what we create is a system of entitled persons who Hey, I waited it out until I could get my voucher. I waited 15 years living over here in this cheap place, doing just fine. I got married. I had 5 kids in those 15 years. And then finally my name came up and now I get cheap rent for the rest of my life. Yeah, no, idiotic. Anyway, tell me what you think of this whole situation. Do you think New York City is going to make more cuts? Do you think that Section 8 needs to be basically reined in? Okay, put a comment in the comment section down below.